what I thought I would do is kind of talk about some of the things that come to me. I get a lot of questions from people. I guess it's that plumbing and HVAC guy thing I've put on myself, and I'll get a lot of questions. I've actually had plumbers calling me lately asking me to tell them what the home inspector wants. So that's a little different than just the home inspector calling me and asking me what the plumber wants. So I'll talk about something real quick. I had a guy call yesterday. He's actually my plumber. I don't do a lot of plumbing anymore because I'm old and fat and I'm broke up. So anyway, I don't do a lot of that. So anyway, he called me, he says, Kenny, I got on the report that there was rusty gas pipes under the house. He said, I went under the house and it's black iron, and it's always going to have some surface rust. And I said, yeah, I understand. He said, so, he says, have you ever painted this pipe under a house? And I said, no, honestly, I haven't. Now, black iron, we paint outside. If we run it outside, we paint it. In our locality, they want that done. In our locality, they won't make us paint galvanized, but they will make us paint the threads. So when you cut and thread the pipe, there's going to be some exposed metal there. They want us to cut the threads. So anyway, his concern was, I don't know what to do. The guy said there's some rust on the pipe, and I really don't know how to handle it. Well, I pointed out to him in Virginia home inspectors can't cite code. So I said, why don't you just take this opportunity to make a little bit of money? I said, give them a price on rough sanding the pipe, either the areas that they're looking at so that they can go back and check. I said, but give the homeowner a price of roughly sanding this stuff over and painting it, but point out to him that in our area, we generally don't, we're not required to do that in the crawl space. I said, if he wants you to go ahead and take care of it, you've made some money. I always point that out. The trade guys will often say things like, I can't believe that home inspector told me to put a piece of insulation on that condensate or on that suction line. And I'm like, you don't like making money? And that's what I always tell the tradesmen. I know they throw you guys under the bus. I understand all that stuff, but I also approach it because I've been on both sides of this. I've actually been on the real estate side too. So I just point out to them that, the guy wants you to, in this particular case, the guy doesn't want to see the rust. So you tell them that you'll sand it up a little bit and paint it if that's what they want, but point out that it's generally not required in the crawl space in our area. They just don't make us do that. And if they want you to do it, that's great. But if another home inspector goes behind you and, says, well, why did he paint the pipe under the house? You're not required to do that. You can at least say, I pointed that out earlier. So I just suggested that he look at it that way. For tradesmen, I tell them, take the things that these guys want you to do and turn it into an opportunity to get a service call to make some money. For home inspectors, I know you guys get clobbered. I understand it. They love to put people under the bus, toss you under the bus. And I do understand that. I've seen it. I every now and then I'll get in the middle between a conversation between a home inspector and a tradesman. Most of the time it's not a real big issue, but every now and then I do understand what goes on. Tonight, what I had planned on doing, and I'll just go ahead and jump on this, is there's a few things I get a lot of questions about on gas. So I thought tonight would be a good opportunity to do that. First of all, this is from, I think it was the 2012 code book with commentary. It was the gas section. And if you see that's kind of an ideal sediment trap that we have right near an appliance, right near a piece of equipment. And if you look at it, it says to gas supply, if branch connects to appliance, or to appliance, if branch connects to the gas supply. So the first thing you got to understand is where's the branch? The branch is the side outlet where the gas runs from the top through the T. The openings there create what we call the run of the T. So it's fairly easy for a tradesman to see that. But I thought what I would do for the home inspectors is point out the more common things that we see that usually we call out, or some guys don't call out and should call out. This particular arrangement, in all likelihood, it could take care of the problem. But what can happen, and I can assure you, I've seen things like this. A little bit of debris could actually move by the opening there at the bottom. It can move by the opening. So what the code guys want, and again, we can't cite code, but we figure out a way to get this through their head. This is what we want. We want to have an installation like this here. See, if this gas is flowing basically in this direction, if debris gets in there, it's going to drop into the bottom of the sediment trap. It's literally being forced into that nipple with the cap on it, and it can be removed. Now, the first thing I'm often asked about cleaning the sediment traps and stuff, I've never cleaned a sediment trap on purpose. If I pull it apart, and it dumps something out, that's fine. But I can tell you, and this is my 50th year in the plumbing and heating business, 2024 is, in all those years, I don't remember ever seeing a lot of anything in one of these pipes. There may be a little piece of something here and there. I've only got water out of one time in all the years that I've done this, and it wasn't much. I just remember dumping the pipe over and realized a few drops of water came out of it. It's just, if you got decent gas in the area, it's dry, you tend to not have a whole lot of problems with that. But the concern is, I mean, you guys have probably seen it. There's a truck flying down the road. The guy's got all his pipe strapped to the top of the truck. Maybe some of the pipes open. You could get a bug in the pipe, something like that. You could get debris that flies up and gets in the pipe. It also lays in our trucks. And I'm going to tell you, I've worked with a lot of plumbers. Sometimes you can't hardly find the pipe in a few days because it's buried by stuff in the guy's truck. So stuff will get in there from that. It's usually not something coming in from the gas. It's usually something that got into the pipe. And what we're trying to do is make sure it doesn't get to the electric gas control. The control is a lot of times temperamental. It can pick up a little bit of trash. It could hang up. Eventually it could stick. And so that's what we're trying to do. So this particular setup right here gives you the ability, one, you can shut the gas off and break the union. And now I can disconnect that furnace. That's a furnace to my right. It could be a water heater or whatever, but you got to be able to break it loose to make a repair. If I was going to change the gas control in the furnace, I got to be able to pull it loose. If I go in there later on to, replace the furnace, it makes it nice that I can just turn this valve off here and not have to worry about shutting the whole house down. It works out pretty good to do that.
So
this
Kenny,
is the other way.
Kenny, let me interrupt just for a second. We got a question here. Larry's wanting to know. I'm not sure I understand exactly what he's saying, but he's asking if it's a code violation to run the trap down on a horizontal run. I'm not sure what down means.
Let me go back, because I think if he's talking about this, in most areas, this would no longer be accepted, if that's what he's talking about. The sediment trap has to be at the bottom. I mean, it has to be at the bottom, and it should be after the gas cock. And if it's not, nothing's going to go in it. So this is the one that I get the most, that I call out, or all the inspectors that I work with, we tell them to call this out, because the code does specifically address that it should be done this way or this way. And here, if you shut the gas off, of course, this one here, I got the union right close to the valve, but the union can be in the pipe, that's the upper pipe, whatever. But anyway, if something would blow through the line this way, it would kind of hit the back of that T. It would be like a backstop, and it would just kind of pop into it and hopefully drop down into the sediment trap itself. What we're hoping is not this, it drops in there so we can clean it out. What we're hoping is it'll drop in there and it'll never get into the gas control. We're not putting it in there really to collect it. I've had a lot of new inspectors call me and say, Kenny, how often should I tell them to clean the sediment trap? And I never tell them to clean the sediment trap. First of all, I would rather they leave the system alone. And in most cases, as I said, 50 years in this business, and actually a little more than that, because I was working as a helper before I actually started in a service truck on my own. And I've just never seen it become a major problem. So if you're going to do it by the code, according to what I showed you the slide earlier, this version and this version are the versions that we want. And they actually, in the commentary, pointed this out, and they pointed out that the other way is often called out. So again, in Virginia, we don't call out code violations. The system is really set up here in such a way so that if a home inspector goes into a house, inspects it after the building inspector has gone in, they're trying to make sure he doesn't cite code. They do not want the code, and they don't want to humiliate the code inspector. They don't want to make him look bad. So they tell the home inspector, don't cite code. We are prohibited from that. And so we don't do that. I tell my guys in class, cite the intent of the code, not the code. Why do you do it this way? What is the concern for if you install something a certain way? And,
So
I know you all get the thing.
Kenny, can you address the question of the purpose of it and what are the risks of not having it?
The primary reason that you're putting it there is to catch debris and things that could work its way into the gas control. The thing that you see, like with the wires going to it on a furnace, that gas control, it's basically a solenoid valve, little things like that. You try to keep it out of there. I guess in some situations, something could even get beyond that control. I doubt it, because most of them have a screen in there, but it's to keep stuff out of the inner workings of the equipment. And the idea behind it is not a maintenance situation where we're going to periodically go clean these things out, because in most cases, the gas system, when it was put in, if there wasn't a lot of stuff in the pipe, you're not going to get much in the pipe itself. The pipe itself, the gas is generally pretty clean. I don't know if I've ever opened up a gas line, brand new gas line, and really saw anything that alarmed me. So the idea is to keep it from getting into the gas control. Now, there are some things that they don't even push, depending on the type of device and stuff like that. Some areas won't make you do it on a gas log. They may not make you do it on like illuminating devices and stuff like that. The big devices that we want to see sediment traps on are things like water heaters, furnaces, boilers, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of, like I said, that's the question I get. And the one that we see, again, the one that I see installed the most often when the guys call them out is this one. And I understand, because if you read, let's see if I can, here we go. If you look at this image here, it's clearly telling you that pipe coming off the top is to go to the gas supply. If the branch, that's where it says T, it points in that to the right there. If that's connected to the appliance, then that line coming off the top is supposed to go to the supply. And if the gas supply enters through the branch, that's that side of the T there, then the gas then should go, the gas should go to the appliances by going through the pipe going upward. And after it goes upward, it'll turn with an elbow or whatever, and it'll go to the gas appliance, the valve. We like on a furnace, we usually call it the thermostatic gas control. On a water heater, generally we don't have a lot of wires going to water heaters. They tend to be sufficient. They don't need the wires and so forth. So anyway, that's something I get quite a bit. Now, this one, you might find this from time to time on a 2-pound system. A lot of times, I know in Virginia, we can use them all over Virginia. A 2-pound system would have a regulator on one side of a T, and maybe the regulator has one of these T's on the other side, one on each side. And that's not so much for cleaning it out. that's actually to provide a place for the guy to put a manometer on there to pressure test his adjustments on the regulator. You know, most of the regulators are pretty good out of the box, but occasionally you might have some weird thing going on, and you can check the gas pressure going into the regulator by just unscrewing this nipple on the inlet side of the regulator. And if you have the same fitting on the outlet side, you can unscrew that there, and you can check the pressure with your manometer and know you got a certain amount of pressure drop across it. On a 2-pound system, you have just that. You have 2 pounds of gas coming into the system. It's like 8 times normal operating pressure. So as it goes to the regulator to the equipment, it's going to drop it down to normal operating pressure. That would, and depending on whether we're looking at you know, a propane system or we'll say we're looking at natural gas, it's going to drop it down to the operating pressure, and you just got to make sure that regulator is doing that. And in order for it to do the job. So you may see one on each side, but truly, if I can set one up, the one on the outlet side just before the equipment, I'm going to do the way I just talked about earlier. I'm going to do it this way or that way on the outlet side before you get to the appliance. And to be straight up with you, by the time it goes through all that stuff, by the time it goes through 2 of those other T's and went through all that, you know, the regulator and all that stuff, you're probably not in any real danger of having any problems anyway. Hollis, did I hear you say something?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you're getting close to wrapping up here.
Okay. Real quickly, do not blow it off if you smell gas. I get people all the time, they smell gas and they talk themselves out of believing it's a leak. I have gone behind so many home inspectors over the years. They open a door in a utility room or something, they smell gas, and I tell them somebody should look for it. You know, I found this leak, I took a picture of it, and I found it was just a soap solution. That's all I did. I just sprayed soap solution on there, and nothing says, hey, you got a problem, like a big bubble popping on it. By the way, that bubble is in the tee, not in the threads. It was just a cheap tee that had a little hole in it. But 2 home inspectors had said they smelt gas, couldn't find it, and just told them probably not a real deal. So they, you know, they kind of blew it off. So you want to cut it now, Hollis?
Yeah, that's good. So, like Kenny said earlier, people, if anybody's got any questions for Kenny, send an email to me at info. I mean, he had his address up there a minute ago, but you know, you can always contact me at info@cyberashi.org. If you want to get directly with Kenny, there it is.
Plumbing and HVAC guy at Gmail. And by the way, I might see some of you the beginning of next month. I'm going down to do the Fabby thing. So look forward to that.